Those are the words spoken to my wife when we went to the ceremony for her dad's interment at the cemetery. And I'm making a case for his flag, and I want to incorporate the three shells of the 21 that the 21 gun salute that he had, and also his birth date and death date on this case. So on one side I'll have his name with the date, with the two dates. On the other side I'm going to create a pocket and epoxy these into the case. I think that'll be a nice way for him to be remembered in our home. So that's what I've got going here for my next project, this flag case. So I've never done anything like this before, but I will tell you that I've laid it out on my software. You know, this is a 45-degree cut on each of the two pieces here, and then on these two corners 22.5. The two pieces, or three pieces that I need, two of them are 20 by 4 rough cut, and the bottom one is 28 by 4 also rough cut. Now the actual dimensions end up being 19.5 approximately from point to point here, and from this point to that point 27 5/8. I came up with those dimensions, and I wanted to do this rough, or this prototype out of this MDF to make sure that the flag was snug in the case, and I didn't want it to be, you know, kind of flopping around and being able to settle. So I've got my pieces prepared here using red oak, and then I also have some drops from the rip cuts that are the same length, and I'll be able to duplicate this one more time to make sure everything is good before I make my actual cuts. So let me get my saw set up, and let me show you how I'm going to do this. Okay, I've got my setup here, and I'm going to make my 22.5-degree cuts first, and get my ear protection here. So I'm just going to slide this through, and then this is the long board. You can't see all of it because I want to focus on this cut, but I've got it clamped securely here so it won't be pulled into the blade. And then I'll just flip it and make the other cut, and I'll do the same with these two short pieces here. All right, these cuts are fairly decent. They're a little open, and so is this at the top, which means this piece needs to be just a hair longer, and I can make it longer by moving my blade this way, or moving my fence, I should say, this way a little bit, because I'm taking too much material off this inside edge, or actually as that stands up. Yeah. What's happening is the blade is cutting at this angle, and I'm getting too deep into this face. So if I move my fence over just a hair and get this closer to a point, because when I get done cutting it, it looks like it's sitting up in the air a little bit, and you want that to be just, you know, in the real world, you'd want that to still be riding along the tabletop. So I can fix that by bumping it over a little bit and making my cuts. And then if I need to, these 45s are done on the miter saw, so that part's not going to change. The only change I'm going to make is right here. And once I make that change, I should be okay. And if I need to sneak up on this cut a little bit, I think I have the ability to do that as well. But we'll see here. So I'm going to make my cuts on my keeper pieces, I'll call them, and then come back and see how they frame up here. Okay, I've got the two pieces lightly clamped. This joint looks good. Comes together with finger pressure, so I'm happy with that. And what I've done here is I've just taken this one, laid it on top, and I want to get an approximate intersection when this one is flush down here. Hope you can see what I'm doing here. Yeah. So I've got that, and then I made two lines where this intersects and drop down a 45 from corner to corner, like so. And then I can take it to my miter saw. Okay, pretty good. But I've got, this is open at the top. Wide enough to get a sheet of paper in there, and that's not good. So I've got to drop this a little bit, which means this angle needs to be, instead of 45, it needs to be just a hair more, I think, or a hair less, actually, a hair less. Yeah, I've got to cut it back this way. In this direction, take a little bit off of the heels. So I will make another pass at this and try and just nibble that just a hair and see how it turns out. Okay, I can live with that. That's going to be a fairly tight joint. Yeah. I went 45.5 degrees. Looks snug. All the seams here. I think once there's glue on that, that'll be nice. It's a good fit. Once I get the glass in here and the back, that'll be a nice case. I made this pocket purposely small so that I could sneak up on it like that. Let's see if I get enough room this way. I've got to go wider. A lot wider. Why? That thing laid that cut right on the same location point, and it is beautiful. Now the reason these won't drop in is because I got to square up the corner just on the one end, just on this end. This is literally taking no time at all. This little radius here is so easy. There you have it. That laid in there nice. And they don't move, they're just barely under the surface. I went to a depth of 0.47. I like it. Now, the one thing I do have to deal with though is right here. I've got some chip out on this corner. See if I can get on in that, show it to you. Let's get this a little closer. Now right here, and I think if I take off about a 1/16, I can get rid of that. So I'm going to take these to the joiner, all three pieces. And whether, you know, it ends up perfect or not, and what I mean by perfect is the width, I can deal with that later. But I want to keep this as my reference face, and then get this taken care of, because this will be the front. So this is the glass side, and then the back will just be a piece of plywood. Rabbited into the back here. Okay, better. Still just have a little bit here, but I think I can take care of that with some glue and sawdust. You can see just that little chunk missing right there. I'll deem that as acceptable for right now. I'm going to create my grooves for my grooves for the glass and the back rabbet, and get pretty close to gluing this thing up, or actually not gluing it up, but going to get a piece of glass made, because that has to go in when it's glued up. The back will be a rabbet, so that goes in later, but let me take this to the table saw, cut these grooves, making sure that I keep this face to the fence, and that's my reference face, and then I'll be right back.